What's going on, guys? Kendall here for Renos for Pros and Joes, helping you simplify the renovation and remodeling process. On this channel, we do renovation tip and strategy videos, as well as hands-on product tool and gear reviews. Today's video is going to be on the topic of adding a bathroom to an existing concrete slab foundation. And I know you're probably wondering, why am I sitting here in a bathtub? Well, it just so happens that I am on site at a project that we're wrapping up, and this project required us to cut into the existing concrete slab in order to run our plumbing to service our new master suite or master bathroom. I just want to talk to you a little bit about some of the things that you need to be aware of and be planning for as you consider doing this type of project for your own property. The first thing and the main thing that you want to be concerned with when you do this type of project is going to be the location of the existing supply lines and the waste lines. Now, if you're going to be completely redoing all of your plumbing in the entire property, this may be less of an issue for you, but if you're tying into existing plumbing, or if you're in a situation where even though you are replacing the existing plumbing, it's already in the location where it should be, even if you replace it, if that makes sense, then you're going to be limited to where you can actually run the waste and supply lines with regards to the existing structure of the plumbing layout. So that's the first thing to be concerned with. Where are the existing supply lines and waste lines, and how far do you have to travel in order to be able to connect those lines to your new locations? This is going to also require you to keep in mind how many fixtures you're going to have in your bathroom. This restroom has 3 sources. We've got our tub, we've got our separate shower over here, we've got our double vanity, and we've got our toilet. So I guess that's 4 actually. But keep that in mind. And you also want to keep in mind the lay of the land, because with regards to your drain lines, the drains have to drain with gravity, which means that if you are doing an addition and let's say the bathroom that you're adding is going to be in the very furthest point from the street back from the house, that has to be the highest point in your waistline system. Otherwise, you're going to have to resort to using some type of pump in order to get your waste down to the sewer or your septic tank, depending on which one you have for your location. Another opportunity that you have to do something different is look at whether or not it's going to be more cost effective for you to come out the side of the slab versus running directly through the slab to tie into the existing central waste lines in the property. And what I mean by that is, for example, the room that I'm sitting in, we had to cut through 20 feet approximately of slab in order to tie into the existing plumbing layout. We could have also gone out the side wall of the house and done the same thing and tied in out in the yard. It would have been a lot more trenching and digging and would have been more involved. So the 20 feet was an easy decision. So that's the main thing you want to be concerned with, is going to be locations. When it comes to the actual performance of the work, you also want to consider what type of tools you'll be using. If you're only going to be cutting a very short distance, you're going to have more options with things that may be practical to use for cutting the slab. Sometimes people use circular saws, which is your standard saw that most carpenters have. They have blades that you can use to cut concrete. It's not ideal for a larger job because really you need to have water running to keep the blade cool and to also minimize the amount of dust that's being kicked up, because it can be a really dusty and nasty process. So for a very, very small job, you may be able to use a circular saw, but I would also recommend renting a larger concrete saw, a saw that's specifically designed for cutting concrete. It's going to be gas powered, and you can push it along the surface and cut if you've got a moderate to smaller size project. I'd say medium size, if you will. So maybe if you're cutting 10 feet or less, you're probably okay to use that type of saw. If you're doing a large project where you're going to have to cut multiple channels and things like that, you may want to splurge and at least look into the cost of renting or using a walk-behind concrete saw. The price is probably going to be substantially more than renting the smaller versions, the handheld versions, but it's going to save you so much in effort and cleanup, because it's going to make a fraction of the dust that the other models will use, and it's also not going to beat you up as much because you can actually stand upright and walk behind it versus having to crouch and kind of kneel and crawl as you would with the smaller version of the concrete saw. So these are the three main options that you have when you're talking about cutting a concrete slab. So we've discussed location of plumbing and supply lines. The main issue is going to be the waistline, because the waistline is going to be a gravity fed deal. The supply lines are going to have pressure, so that's going to be less of an issue with regards to pushing the water to the locations where it needs to go, whether that's your toilet, your tub, your vanity faucets, or your shower. That should be less of an issue. So the next option that you have, or next thing you need to consider, is going to be whether or not to come through the slab at all, or to come out into the yard and see if that's going to save you any time or money with regards to that. So those are the two main concerns that you want to address. The next thing that I would say is, when you're doing your design, you want to make sure that you are completely invested in a finalized bathroom layout before you begin cutting, because you don't want to have to spend money to have multiple cuts made multiple times, the guys coming back out to put concrete back and things like that, or turning your slab into Swiss cheese because you've been indecisive. So come up with a design plan for the bathroom and stick to it. So this may involve, if you're working with a concrete slab, 9 times out of 10, that means you've got the space open already that you can actually go in and draw out exactly what you are planning and envisioning. You can use some chalk or a large marker to be able to do this. And I would strongly encourage doing that, because once you actually have the layout on the floor, you can kind of walk around and create a virtual space, if you will, that will allow you to determine whether or not the layout will actually work for you and the other people who are going to be using that space. So that pretty much covers the majority of the things I wanted to tell you about adding a bathroom on a concrete slab. We have not yet put our finished flooring into our bedrooms, where we had to also cut concrete, so I can at least show you what it looks like before we cover everything up, and give you another cautionary tale, if you will. So let me hop out of this tub, and I'll meet you over here in the rooms in just 1 second. Okay guys, as I promised, I'm going to show you something in the adjacent room to give you a better idea of how all this comes together. So this is in the bedroom that is adjacent to the master bathroom. And if you look here closely along the floor, you can see the outline where this concrete is a slightly different color. This is the channel that was cut for our waste and supply lines to be installed, and then it's been covered back over. Before we use our finished floor, we will be putting one last coat of self-leveling compound on the floor to get it exactly the way we want it before we do our finished floors. So I wanted to show you that, because on the other side of this wall is that bathroom. So I'm going to walk you out of here and walk you back. Does it look familiar? See, that's where I was before. So I'm going to pan this way, and here we have our shower. So we have cut our slab here to tie in here. We have that same channel that was in the other room that's going this way. We've tied in our supply lines here in the walls for our double vanity. And then we've also gone off this way for our commode. And then we have a drain here in the center of the floor for this freestanding tub. Everything else was pretty straightforward, or more straightforward, or easier, however you want to classify that. Once we have the drains in, you can clearly see here that we've got supply line here for the floor for our freestanding tub filler valve. That was probably the most challenging component of this, to make sure that we had the spacing proper so that we didn't have a lot of spills and things by not having it close enough or overhanging into the tub at the proper distance. So got that nailed. Here we've got our shower valve, and that's also in the wall. And then we've got another drain here. that pretty much concludes it, guys, and that kind of shows you what I wanted to explain to you. Well, hopefully you guys found this video informative. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you guys on the next one. Peace.